The words, "No ticket for you, stupid old man," sliced through the chaotic hum of Honolulu Airport like a cold blade. My daughter-in-law Ashley stood there, boarding pass clutched in her hand, her voice dripping with disdain, treating me like a stranger. This was after I had just shelled out $18,500 for their entire family vacation. Every first-class flight, every gourmet meal, every lavish night at that five-star resort. My son Brandon stood by, utterly silent, while 100 strangers watched this pathetic old man being abandoned by his own flesh and blood. My hands trembled as I picked up my suitcase, feeling the crushing weight of 38 years of sacrifice. But they had no idea what they had just done, because 3 days later they would learn a brutal lesson. Never humiliate the man who secretly owns 75% of everything you think is yours. My name is Arthur Phillips, and this is how I taught my family the true meaning of respect. Let me take you back to where this story truly began. I'm 67 years old, a retired Boeing engineer. For 42 years, I designed aircraft systems that kept millions of people safe in the sky. My late wife, Linda, used to joke that I was more meticulous with airplane blueprints than with our own family finances. She wasn't wrong. Linda passed away 3 years ago from pancreatic cancer. Her last words to me, as I held her hand in that sterile hospital room, were simple. "Arthur, promise me you'll take care of our family. Promise me you'll make sure Brandon and the kids are okay." I promised her. And I meant it. What Linda didn't know was just how well I could keep that promise. You see, Boeing engineers who worked on the 747 program in the 80s received stock options, very good ones. I had been quietly investing those options through a private fund called Pinnacle Holdings for over 20 years. By the time I retired, that fund was worth more than most people see in 10 lifetimes. But I never told Brandon any of it. My son was 28 when his mother died, fresh out of college with a computer science degree and big dreams of working in tech. He landed a job as an IT manager at a company called Core Industries. Decent salary, good benefits. It seemed like a solid start for a young man building his life. Brandon never asked where I got the money to help him. Perhaps he should have, but that was my first mistake. I started giving without asking questions, without setting boundaries, without demanding the one thing that should come automatically in any family: respect. Brandon met Ashley 2 years after Linda passed. She was a marketing manager at a downtown startup. Blonde hair, a bright smile, and the kind of ambition that made her eyes sparkle when she talked about building her brand and networking opportunities. I wanted to like her. I truly did. The first red flag appeared at their engagement dinner. I had offered to pay for the celebration at the Metropolitan Grill. $800 for dinner, for 12 people, seemed reasonable for such an important occasion. But when I handed Ashley the wine list, she looked at me like I'd just offered her a gas station hot dog. "Arthur, honey," she said with that syrupy sweet voice she used when she was about to say something cutting, "maybe we should let Brandon handle the wine selection. You know, since he actually knows about these things." Brandon said nothing, just stared at his phone. I ordered a bottle of Chablis anyway, a $240 bottle. Ashley drank 3 glasses. The second red flag was smaller, but sharper. Tyler, my grandson, was 15 then, just starting to drive. He needed a car for school and his part-time job. I offered to help with a down payment. Nothing fancy, just a reliable Honda Civic for $12,000. Ashley pulled me aside after dinner. "That's really generous, Arthur, but maybe next time you could check with us first. We're trying to teach Tyler about earning things, you know." She drove a brand new BMW X5. Lease payments, I'd later learn, that Brandon could barely afford. But I kept writing checks anyway. That was my second mistake. The requests started small and grew like weeds. Brandon needed help with his mortgage down payment, $65,000. I wired it the same day from my Pinnacle Holdings account. Ashley wanted to renovate their kitchen, $32,000. I paid the contractor directly. Tyler needed college prep courses. Emma wanted piano lessons and dance classes. I covered everything. Each time, Ashley would hug me and call me the most generous father-in-law in the world. Each time, Brandon would mumble a quick thanks and change the subject. Each time, I noticed they asked for more. The BMW lease turned into a purchase, $28,000, that I paid to help their credit score. Ashley's marketing startup failed, and suddenly they needed help with monthly expenses. $2,000 a month, just temporarily, until she found something new. That temporary arrangement lasted 18 months. I kept detailed records of everything, every wire transfer, every check, every receipt. Call it an engineer's habit, but I documented it all in a leather folder I kept in my home office safe. The folder was getting thick, but here's what they didn't know about their generous, foolish old father. Every dollar I gave them was carefully tracked through Pinnacle Holdings. Every payment was logged as a secured loan with specific terms about repayment and collateral. And every loan was backed by something they didn't even realize I owned. You see, Core Industries had been struggling for years when I started investing in them. The company needed capital, and Pinnacle Holdings had plenty to offer. We bought shares quietly through intermediaries, building our position over time. By the time Ashley suggested the Hawaii trip, I owned 75% of the company where my son worked. He still doesn't know that. Arthur, I have the most amazing idea. Ashley cornered me at Tyler's high school graduation party. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, and her smile had that particular brightness that meant she wanted something expensive. Brandon's been working so hard lately, she continued, touching my arm. And the kids are stressed about school. I think we all need a family vacation. Something really special to bring everyone together. I should have seen it coming. I was thinking Hawaii. Not just any trip, but a real luxury experience. 5-star resort, first-class flights, the works. Tyler's going to college in the fall, and who knows when we'll all be together again. She painted a beautiful picture. Family dinners on the beach, snorkeling with the grandkids, Brandon finally relaxing for the first time in years. Quality time together, making memories that would last forever. It would probably cost around $20,000, she said casually. But think about the family bonding. Think about giving the kids this incredible experience. Brandon was standing 20 feet away, talking to other parents. He could have joined the conversation, could have said something about budgets or planning, or maybe thanking his father for the generous offer. Instead, he pretended not to hear. I'll handle all the planning, Ashley rushed on. The resort, the activities, everything. All you'd have to do is relax and enjoy your family. I looked at Tyler and Emma, laughing with their friends. They were good kids. They deserved a special trip. $18,500, I said. But I picked the airline. Ashley's smile could have powered the entire graduation party. That was my biggest mistake yet. Ashley threw herself into planning that Hawaii trip like it was her full-time job. She booked everything. The flights, the resort, the excursions. She even created a detailed itinerary, color-coded and laminated. I was just the ATM. Every time she needed a payment, she'd send me a text, always with a cheerful emoji. The total came to exactly $18,500, just as I'd anticipated. I wired the money directly to the travel agent she'd found. The trip itself was a blur of subtle slights. On the flight, Ashley had booked first-class seats for herself, Brandon, Tyler, and Emma. My seat? Business class. 2 rows behind them. "Oh, Grandpa Art, we just wanted to give you some peace and quiet," Ashley had chirped, as if I were a senile old man who couldn't handle the excitement of sitting with his family. At the resort, they had a suite with an ocean view. My room was a standard garden view, 2 floors down. "More private, Arthur," Brandon mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Dinners were always at the 5-star restaurants Ashley had chosen, but I was usually an afterthought. "Oh, Arthur, we already made reservations for 4. We'll see if they can squeeze you in at the end of the table." I ate many meals alone, watching them from a distance, laughing and taking selfies. The snorkeling trip was the final straw. Ashley had booked a private catamaran for the family. "Just us," she'd emphasized. When I showed up at the dock, she looked genuinely surprised. "Oh, Arthur, we thought you were going to relax by the pool today. This is a private family thing." Tyler and Emma looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Brandon just shrugged. I watched the catamaran sail away, leaving me standing alone on the pier, the Hawaiian sun beating down on my face, feeling utterly invisible. That night, I called my lawyer, Peterson. "Peterson," I said, my voice calm, "I need you to prepare some documents for me. Very specific documents." He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Consider it done, Arthur." The day of our departure arrived. We were at Honolulu International, checking in for our flight back to Seattle. Ashley, in her usual domineering fashion, was orchestrating everyone. "Brandon, did you get the luggage tags? Tyler, where's your backpack? Emma, stop playing on your phone." She handed out boarding passes. First class for her, Brandon, Tyler, and Emma. My boarding pass was for business class. Again. As we walked towards the gate, Ashley turned to me, a sickly sweet smile plastered on her face. "Arthur, honey, we're going to board first. You can just wait here and relax. We'll see you on the plane." Brandon nodded in agreement. Tyler and Emma looked down at their feet. I watched them walk away, their backs to me, a family unit, leaving me behind. The final boarding announcement came at 6:50 p.m. "This is the final call for Hawaiian Airlines Flight 892 to Seattle. Any remaining passengers should board immediately." I stood up slowly, my carry-on bag in one hand and my boarding pass in the other. But instead of walking toward the gate, I walked over to the airline customer service desk 20 feet away. "Excuse me," I said to the agent behind the counter. "I need to make a change to my reservation." "Of course, sir. How can I help you?" "I'd like to cancel my seat on Flight 892 and book the next available flight to Seattle tonight, if possible." The agent looked confused. "Sir, your flight is boarding right now. Is there a problem?" Through the gate area windows, I could see the jet bridge being pulled away from our plane. Flight 892 was departing exactly on schedule. "No problem at all," I said. "I just decided to extend my vacation by 1 day." The agent started typing on her computer. "I see you're in business class on this flight. The next flight to Seattle isn't until tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m., and it's completely sold out except for one seat in economy." "That's perfect. But sir, you'll lose the value of your current ticket, and the economy seat tomorrow costs $450. I handed her my credit card. "That's fine." As she processed the change, I looked back at gate A7. The door was closed now. The plane was pushing back from the terminal. My family was on their way home without me, just like they'd planned all along. I sat in the mostly empty gate area and watched Flight 892 taxi toward the runway. From my seat, I could see into some of the aircraft windows. First-class passengers were already being served champagne and warm nuts. Business travelers were opening their laptops. Families were settling in for the 5-hour flight to Seattle. Somewhere in that plane, Ashley was probably telling Tyler and Emma how their grandfather had decided to stay in Hawaii for an extra day, how he was getting old and confused and couldn't keep up with the family schedule. Brandon would nod along and say something about how I needed to learn to be more independent. They'd probably laugh about it. I pulled out my phone and called the resort to extend my stay by 1 night. The Grand Wailea had plenty of availability, and they were happy to accommodate a guest who wanted to enjoy paradise a little longer. "Will the rest of your party be extending as well?" the reservations agent asked. "No," I said, "just me." After I hung up, I sat there in the gate area for another hour, watching planes take off and land, families reuniting, couples starting their vacations, business travelers heading home after long weeks away. I should have felt angry. I should have felt hurt, or betrayed, or abandoned. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 3 years: relief. For the first time since Linda died, I didn't have to worry about what my family needed from me. I didn't have to anticipate their requests, or manage their expectations, or wonder if I was giving them enough. I could finally think clearly about what came next, and what came next was going to surprise them. At 8 p.m. Hawaiian time, I called Peterson and Associates from my hotel room. "Arthur," Peterson said when his assistant put me through. "How was the family vacation?" Peterson had been my lawyer for 15 years, ever since Linda and I first set up our estate planning. He was the only person outside of my accountant who knew the real scope of my assets. "Educational," I said. "Tell me about Core Industries, your son's company. What about it? What percentage does Pinnacle Holdings own now?" I heard papers shuffling on his end of the call. "Let me check the latest filings. As of last quarter, you owned 74.3% of outstanding shares. Are you thinking of increasing your position?" "I'm thinking of exercising some shareholder rights." Peterson was quiet for a moment. "Arthur, what happened in Hawaii?" I told him all of it. The seating arrangements, the excluded dinners, the snorkeling trip, the airport abandonment. I spoke calmly and factually, like I was describing a mechanical problem in an aircraft system. "Jesus," Peterson said when I finished. "And Brandon went along with all this?" "Brandon orchestrated half of it." "What do you want to do?" I looked out my hotel room window at the Pacific Ocean, dark and endless under the Hawaiian night sky. Core Industries is having their quarterly board meeting next Friday, right? That's correct. I want to attend. Arthur, you own 74% of the company. You don't need permission to attend. You could fire the entire board if you wanted to. I know. What should I tell them the meeting is about? Personnel changes. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because I was angry or hurt, but because my mind was working through the logistics of what I was about to do. 42 years as an engineer had trained me to think systematically, to consider all variables, to plan for every possible outcome. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I gave up on sleep and sat on my balcony with my laptop. Pinnacle Holdings had been more successful than I'd ever imagined when I started it 23 years ago. What began as a way to manage my Boeing stock options had grown into a diversified portfolio worth $38 million. Core Industries was just one of our investments, but it was the largest single position. When the company had needed capital 3 years ago, Pinnacle Holdings had stepped in as a white knight investor. We'd saved jobs, stabilized operations, and helped the company grow. Brandon never knew his father was the reason his job existed. I opened my investment account and started reviewing the documentation. Corporate bylaws, shareholder agreements, employment contracts, all the legal infrastructure that governed how companies operate. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. the following Friday. I flew back to Seattle the day before, landing early in the morning. I spent the rest of the day in my home office reviewing the documents Peterson had sent me. The folder of loans to Brandon and Ashley was now almost bursting. The total amount, including interest, was well over $300,000. Each loan was meticulously documented, with clear repayment terms and collateral. The collateral, in most cases, was a lien against their primary residence and any shares Brandon held in Core Industries. They had signed everything without reading the fine print, trusting their generous old father. The next morning, I arrived at Core Industries corporate headquarters at 9:30 a.m. The receptionist, a young woman who had always been polite, looked surprised to see me. "Mr. Phillips? What a pleasant surprise. Are you here to see Brandon?" "No, I'm here for the board meeting," I said, a slight smile playing on my lips. Her eyes widened. The board meeting? Oh, it's on the 10th floor, conference room A." I took the elevator up. The 10th floor was quiet, the air thick with anticipation. I walked into conference room A. The board members were already seated around the large mahogany table, their faces a mixture of surprise and confusion. Brandon was there too, looking utterly bewildered. Ashley, who often attended these meetings as Brandon's +1, was not. "Arthur?" Brandon stammered, standing up. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to attend the board meeting," I said, taking the empty seat at the head of the table. The chairman, Mr. Harrison, a man I had known for years, cleared his throat. "Arthur, we weren't expecting you. Is there a particular reason for your presence?" "Yes, Mr. Harrison, there is. As the majority shareholder of Core Industries, I believe I have every right to attend." A hush fell over the room. Brandon's face went pale. He finally understood. "I've also called this meeting to address some personnel changes," I continued, my voice calm and steady. "Specifically, I'm here to announce the immediate termination of Brandon Phillips as IT manager and Ashley Phillips as a marketing consultant for this company." Brandon gasped. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "You heard me, Brandon. You're fired. And so is Ashley." The room erupted in murmurs. Mr. Harrison looked stunned. "Arthur, this is highly irregular. We need to follow proper procedures." "I am following proper procedures, Mr. Harrison. As the majority shareholder, I have the authority to make these decisions. And I'm also calling for a vote of no confidence in the current board of directors." The next hour was a blur of legal jargon and stunned silence. Peterson, who had arrived shortly after me, presented the documentation. The board members, realizing the futility of resistance, eventually voted in favor of my proposals. Brandon sat there, his face a mask of disbelief and anger. "You can't do this, Dad. This is my life. This is my family," he yelled, his voice cracking. "You taught me that actions have consequences, Brandon," I said, looking him straight in the eye. "And this is the consequence of yours. You humiliated me. You abandoned me. You took advantage of my generosity. And now, you're going to pay the price." That night, my phone rang off the hook. Brandon's angry voicemails piled up, each one more venomous than the last. Ashley sent furious texts, accusing me of being a heartless old man, of ruining their lives. I didn't answer any of them. I just sat in my quiet home office, looking at the thick leather folder on my desk. The next day, Peterson initiated the foreclosure proceedings on their house, citing the unpaid loans. He also began the process of seizing Brandon's Core Industries shares, which were pledged as collateral. They had taken everything they could from me, and now I was taking everything back. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Tyler. "Grandpa Art, is it true? Did you really fire Dad and Mom?" His voice was hesitant, almost scared. "Yes, Tyler, it's true." "Why?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Because they chose to humiliate me, Tyler. They chose to take advantage of my love and trust, and they did it behind your back." Tyler was 18 now, starting his freshman year at the University of Washington in the fall. Old enough to understand family dynamics, old enough to recognize manipulation when he saw it. "Grandpa Art, did you really own Dad's company?" "I did." "And you really fired him and Mom because of what happened in Hawaii?" "I did." "Good." That one word hit me harder than all of Ashley's tears, or all of Brandon's angry voicemails. "Tyler, no. I'm serious. They treated you like garbage, and you didn't deserve that." Emma thinks so too, but she's scared to say anything because she still has to live with them for 4 more years. "What about you? Where are you living now?" "With Mom and Dad, but not for much longer. I'm moving into the dorms early." "And after that?" Tyler paused. "After that, maybe I could take you out to dinner sometime. Just you and me. I'd like to hear your side of the story." 2 months after Hawaii, I received a letter. Not an email or a text message, but an actual handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. The return address showed Brandon and Ashley's house, but the handwriting was Emma's. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something about seeing my 15-year-old granddaughter's careful script made me sit down at my kitchen table and open the envelope. "Dear Grandpa Arthur, I don't know if you'll read this, but I wanted to try to explain some things. Tyler told me about your phone call. He said you sounded sad, but not angry anymore. I hope that's true, because I've been feeling terrible about Hawaii for weeks. I know Mom and Dad told you that Emma and I didn't understand what was happening, but that's not true. We understood exactly what was happening. We just didn't know how to stop it. Mom has been telling us for years that you were getting old and confused, and that we needed to be patient with you. She said you didn't really understand money anymore, and that Dad had to manage your finances to protect you from making bad decisions. We believed her because why wouldn't we? She's our mom. But in Hawaii, when she said those things to you at the airport, Tyler and I looked at each other and knew something was really wrong. You're not old and confused. You're probably the smartest person in our family. I wanted to say something at the airport, but I was scared of Mom getting angry. Tyler wanted to say something too, but we're just kids, and we didn't know what words were supposed to fix something that terrible. I know you fired Mom and Dad from their jobs. Tyler explained about the company and the money and all of that. I don't understand all the business stuff, but I understand that actions have consequences. I'm sorry we didn't stand up for you when we should have. I'm sorry Mom and Dad taught us to take you for granted. I'm sorry you had to sit alone at that airport. Love, Emma. P.S. My phone number is 206-555-847. You could call me sometime if you want. I promise I'll answer. 2 years later, I was having dinner with Tyler and Emma at a waterfront restaurant in Pike Place Market. Tyler was finishing his sophomore year at UW, majoring in computer science, but taking business classes on the side. He'd started asking me questions about investing and entrepreneurship, conversations that reminded me of myself at his age. Emma was a junior in high school now, living with a host family in Bellevue, because she'd decided she didn't want to deal with the drama at home anymore. She was working part-time at a bookstore and saving money for college. "How are your parents?" I asked. "The way I always did when we had dinner." "Mom's working as a server at a restaurant in Bothell," Tyler said. "Dad finally found an IT job with a small company downtown, but it pays about half what he was making at Core." "They had to sell the house," Emma added. "They're renting a 2-bedroom apartment now." I nodded and took a sip of my wine. The waterfront restaurant overlooked Elliott Bay, where ferries and cargo ships moved slowly through the dark water. "Do they ever ask about me?" "Sometimes," Tyler said carefully. "But they're mostly focused on trying to rebuild their lives, as they should be." Emma reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Tyler and I wrote something for you," she said, handing me the paper. "It's not a card or anything fancy, just something we wanted you to know." I unfolded the paper and read 2 sentences written in Emma's careful handwriting. "Thank you for teaching us that respect is earned, not demanded. Thank you for showing us that love without boundaries isn't really love at all." I folded the paper and put it in my jacket pocket, next to my heart. "You're welcome," I said.